Really quick before I jump into it, bit of context. This is going to be for the early game, what I consider to be the most powerful demons. But we're going up to level 22. The reason we're doing level 22 is because the final boss of the first section of the game is level 22. So it's like, all right, there and below is what we're going to do for the first video, and we'll do other videos as we get further into the game. As I get further, you know, I'm working a lot too. And besides that, also, of course, just because of the way the game works, nothing is going to be good in every single fight always. It's just not really how the game is structured. You're going to make different teams for different bosses for different weaknesses, right? So I tried to avoid things that are just like, oh, this guy has a strong elemental attack, because it's just like, yeah, but they may not have a good, you know, skill potency for the right element or something like that. Anyway, we're jumping into it. Number 5, Jack-o'-lantern. These are in no particular order, but I'm just going to count down anyway. Jack-o'-lantern. Now, Forager is not particularly good when you're talking about doing boss fights, right? Like, I had it on my last list on a different unit. This is, like, less good when you're fighting bosses. But, honestly, he has the unique ability to do a medium fire attack. So, there's a couple things going on here. As long as the boss isn't resistant or immune to fire, it is totally fine to hit them with a neutral resistance attack, where they just don't have weak or resistant to it. You'll still do really good damage. And you don't need to exploit weaknesses every single action. It's not necessary. And this attack does great damage because he has one of the highest magic stats at this stage of the game. Maybe there's something that's a little bit higher. I don't even know, but it's like, this is way up there. And he has a built-in medium fire attack, which is good. And it even lowers an attack by 1 rank for 3 turns. So he's one of the highest default just damage dealers, as long as there is not a fire resistance on the team. And even when he's not the highest, because he's not exploiting weakness, he is still lowering the attack of enemies. And even if you're really good at using dampeners at the right times and this and that and guarding at the right times, eventually bosses are going to hit you. So lowering their attack is very, very good. Really like Jack-o'-lantern. He's been a go-to for me for sure. Other things he gets, like he does get to increase his own max HP, making him a bit more tanky. But other than that, he doesn't have anything built in. +5 fire potency is pretty sick though. But overall, just a pretty generically good. Nothing that stands out as broken, but definitely powerful for the stage of the game where you get him. Number 4 is Leon Sidhi. So you have basically the option to choose between getting a free one of the Apsaris or Leon Sidhi. They're both good. You could take them both, but I think she's one of the... You could also fuse her, right? You don't miss out on one of them. One of the best units in the early game, just straight up because of the burden of talent. No one else has this at this stage, and it's absolutely kind of busted. While in the active party, all allies that have ailments take increased damage. All right, so far, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't sound that good. But after the comma, it gets better, I promise. But chance of inflicting status ailments increases. So status ailments in this game are incredibly powerful. Bosses are frequently resistant to it, but this makes this character... If you're not fighting a boss that inflicts you all with status ailments, like Charm in the first round of combat, then she might not be the best choice in that fight. But if a boss isn't like really trying to do lots of status ailments on you, then the downside is not even really there. And 2, increasing the chances of inflicting a status ailment on a boss is really good. Like someone pointed out that the very first boss, the Demon Tower, he's not resistant or anything to sleep, right? So you could put him to sleep way easier while doing this. I still don't think it was the best strategy. Doesn't matter. Point is, a lot of bosses will have something that they're not resistant to. And even if they're resistant to everything, they're probably not immune to everything. And if they're just resistant, even then, just having a chance to inflict Mirage on them, having a chance to inflict Seal on them, if you're doing damage with an attack and it can also do the secondary effect, that's super powerful to just have on the team as an innate skill. Outside of that, she also just is like fine damage-wise, right? She has media built in. It's not hard to get her any elemental attack you want. I don't really like her This one's all right, but it's not the best. But really, it's all about the burden of talent. It just, by having her here, she's just good. She doesn't increase your damage on the team, but she might if you could poison the enemy, right? Like if you could poison a boss, that's a lot of free damage. So definitely someone that I think you should consider using. Can be a little scary if you're not in the right setup, because getting afflicted with a status ailment, then you just explode, is not ideal. Maybe the best damage dealing buff in the early game, you can't see it underneath here, is Bicorn. Bicorn is so good. Now again, if an enemy is resistant or immune to physical, then he's not as good, I'll be honest. But while in the active party, increases critical damage of physical attacks for all allies. Here's the thing, you have a button every boss fight that says guarantee all your attacks are critical hits. You have a button that activates this. You don't have like, you also have chance to get crits in general, right? Of course, but you get to just be like, hey, I want to guarantee crits all this turn. And he also gets beat down, very powerful. Charge, beast eye, increased accuracy. Like, you have to give him some skills probably to make him a bit better. But I mean, just by having this on your team, you're going to be doing so much more damage if you're more physically oriented. Obviously, like, there's a time and a place, but really, like, that boss that does that AoE cause everyone to be charmed, she's weak to physical. So this is the best thing you could be doing in the entire game, at least at this point. But even if you're not having a boss with weakness, being able to guarantee getting crits and then utilizing those crits on some very high strength characters is huge. And this is going to get better, right? Because physical can eventually get elements, right? There's elemental physical attacks. When, I don't know, but they're out there. We're going to find them. So this will allow you to exploit weaknesses while also using your physical stat as opposed to your magic stat. So this is a very, very good ability that's only going to get better. And again, if you just have this character in on the first round of combat, you had, you know, the critical, you make everyone get guaranteed crits, and then suddenly you just take them out of the party, you know, the next round and switch them in with something else. Like, that's fine. If you're not going to get guaranteed crits, you don't need them in the party. But super strong buff for what he does. And he actually leads really, really well into the Mermaid. Mermaid, number 2, one of the strongest characters for sure. So, Padme from Star Wars Fest. Pandemonic Feast is busted. You have to have a team built around it, don't get me wrong, but it is busted. While in the active party and you're under the, you know, Ogamegatuki effect, all effects will, with multi-hits, will have increased accuracy and increase the maximum possible hits. So this is a damage boost, it's an accuracy enhancer, and it's free. All you need to do is, if you have Bicorn in your party and you have Mermaid in your party and you have critical, now you're getting guaranteed boosted damage crits, and all your physical, you know, on your physical, and then all your physical attacks that, like, there's a bunch of stuff like bouncing slice or whatever, right? Let me see if there's something that scratch dance, right? 2 to 4 physical attacks on an enemy. Now suddenly it's doing 2 to 6, and it's also getting guaranteed crits that are boosted damage, and it's also doing blah 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 blah. Aramasa on the main character, right? Like, absolutely sicko mode. Very, very powerful ability. But besides the Bicorn application, it's just good. She has Stormcaller's Song, 3 to 6 weak ice attacks on random foes. When you're fighting lots of targets, this becomes less good. It becomes whatever. But if you're fighting 2 foes, and if you're fighting 1 foe, this is so strong. Especially when she has her own effect on. So now she's doing 3 to 8 attacks. I think it gives it +2 on the high end without changing the low end. That's what I think it does. It doesn't say, but that's kind of what it's been felt like. I think Aramasa went from 8 to 10, basically. But that part's not as important. Weak ice attacks to 1 foe 3 to 8 times, absolutely exploding them. And also, like, you could start every boss fight with one of these on. Maybe you want to do, like, there might be situations where you want to do something where you lower the enemy's turn icon instead. But most of the time, like, I'm just starting with critical, man. Critical, there's other effects that does stuff, like you can make it so all your skills cost 1 MP for 1 turn. That'll still do the same thing, right? It doesn't have to be critical for her ability. It just has to be an effect that is affecting your party and not an attack that's hitting something. But absolutely insane damage on this ability. Absolutely insane effect. It works with so many things. Like if you come up here to one of the guys that I don't have on the list, but I think is pretty good, any breath attacks, right? 2 to 5 breath attacks, suddenly that's going to do more. 2 to 5 fire breath attacks, it's going to do more. Needle spray, right? Like, so super good with this unit. It's just a very, very powerful effect with a lot of utility, and it just helps you kill shit faster. Not to mention, she has one of the best, this is a better breath attack than anyone else in the game has at level 22 at least. And her stats aren't that bad either. This one's only level 12, which is why her magic looks low. Level her up 10 more levels, suddenly her magic's going to be looking pretty good. And number 1, this one might be a little anticlimactic, honestly, but it's my personal favorite demon in the game so far, and that's Megami. He's a good boy. That's all you could say about it. No, Megami has Faithful Companion. Increase the damage for the ally that acts after the user when they strike a weakness. You know what you're doing at least 50% of the time in a boss fight? You're striking a weakness. You want this character, because the structure of the way the team goes, you can have this guy in your flex spots, which for me are 2 and 4. It doesn't need to be 2 and 4. It could be, 3 and 4. It just can't be spot 1, basically, is the only restriction. Spot 1, you need to exploit a weakness. But after that, you could have him pretty much in any slot, and he doesn't need to exploit a weakness, but the character after him can exploit a weakness and gets bonus damage for doing nothing, just for standing here. Very, very good. It makes him kind of just like a perfect unit to be a support unit, because you could use him to also, like, you could use him to revive. You could use him to heal things. I actually, on my, can I look at the custom one? Boop. I put mine with Rakunda, lowers defense. So when his turn comes up and we're fighting a single boss, I just lower defense. And then the next character that's exploiting weakness gets the extra damage from Faithful Companion, gets the extra damage from the lowered defense. And sometimes I can't have him attack. His stats aren't incredible. He's got incredible luck. I don't know if that's good. I don't know what luck is actually good for. It says, like, increases the chance of things that have a chance to have chances. And I don't know if that means, like, status effects, because if it does, that could be pretty cool. But overall, it's just, like, he's a little anticlimactic because he doesn't do the big damage numbers. But he could do okay damage. But really, as a support, it's just fucking good. Faithful Companion has been so good for me, and it's made all my boss fights that I've used him in just easier, because he's just there, and I'm just going to exploit a weakness, and then boom, I just deal bonus damage. I don't need to have my super gauge up, so like maybe after a turn I use Bicorn, maybe I switch Bicorn out and put in Megami, because Megami is going to increase our damage constantly, and we're going to lower their defense by 2 stages. I think it's 2 or 3 stages. I can't remember. But maybe you actually, I'm trying to think, like Bicorn, maybe you want to start here, lower defense by 2 stages, and then do the Bicorn turn. That way you're getting guaranteed crits with boosted damage on a lower defense thing, something like that. You really want to stack these modifiers in RPGs to really get your damage number as high as possible. Whenever you stack on one more thing, it's like multiplicative, right? It's like, it just makes your damage go so much higher. And typically in RPGs, they're planning for people to not do every single thing to increase your damage at once. So you could usually burst through certain phases and stuff that you're not normally able to get through. Anyway, also I like that this guy's a flat boy. That's kind of nice. Anyway, that is all for this one. These are the 5 demons that I've had the most luck with, that I've felt the most powerful to me, and also felt like generally powerful. Like, you could include a lot, like Neko Shogun's cool, right? Because Fang Breaker is pretty good. You could, make a team of Sand Man and other people that don't wake up people when they put them to sleep. Like, there's other things that just deal a lot of damage. Like, one of my personal favorite is Nyami, who might be my favorite demon, or tied with the other one here. But Roaring Mist, right? Increase your damage based on the number of hits dealt by allies. And it's good, I think, but I don't think it's like top 5 always good. Even with the ability to pierce, it's just a weak attack. It's not that good. But these are the ones that I've had the most luck with, that I've enjoyed the most. Anyway, Purplatypus is Purplatypus. Much love. I'll see you guys on the flip-flops. Bye!